29th, 2018, and you are tuned into One Wrestling Video, and this is NXT. My name is Jargo. I'm the NXT digital reporter for One Wrestling Video. I apologize for not being here last week with you, but with everything going on with StarCast, there's not enough hours in the day. Last week's episode was basically an NXT TakeOver Brooklyn review show. If you have not seen TakeOver Brooklyn, stop this right now. Just stop. Go over to the WWE Network, watch the show, come on back. We'll talk about this week's episode. It was a fantastic show. Of course, we'll talk a little bit more about StarCast, everything myself and my tag team partner Rick Vickery have coming up here at the end of the episode. For now, let's take a look at tonight's episode of NXT. Tonight's episode, of course, was from the first set of tapings since TakeOver Brooklyn. We are back inside Full Sail Arena in beautiful Orlando, Florida for this set of tapings. The show opens with William Regal assuring the NXT universe we are going to get to the bottom of this Aleister Black thing, and it is going to start tonight. We then go to the cold open, and the show actually kicks off with Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano comes walking out, no music, I think that's of note, comes walking out with a crutch. Hobbles his way down to the ring, and Johnny says, "You guys have always had my back," but Johnny doesn't deserve for the NXT universe to have his back right now. He says he loves all the Johnny wrestling chants, but he doesn't deserve them because he broke a promise to the NXT universe when he lost to Tommaso Ciampa at TakeOver Brooklyn 4. He says he doesn't know where he goes from here. He says he's lost much more than a match in Brooklyn. He's lost himself. Johnny doesn't know what to do anymore. He doesn't know what's left. He says in Brooklyn he became Tommaso Ciampa, and he can't get Ciampa out of his head. He says he has to be better for the fans, for Candice, and then he is interrupted by NXT General Manager William Regal. As we noted at the top of the show, William Regal is going to get to the bottom of this Aleister Black mystery. Regal asked Johnny straight up if he attacked Aleister Black. Johnny says Regal has known him for a very long time. You tell me. Look into my eyes, and you will know if I attacked Aleister Black. Before William Regal can actually respond, Velveteen Dream. His music interrupts the little party going on in the ring, and Dream says he is not in the mood. He doesn't want to hear about poor Johnny anymore. Tonight should be about the experience. Tonight should be about the Velveteen Dream, not Johnny Failure. Johnny says, the doctor gave him this crutch to keep the weight off of his knee, but he's actually good to go. He throws the crutch at the Dream, and this match is made official for NXT next week. This is great. Velveteen Dream coming off of a huge win over EC3 at TakeOver Brooklyn. Johnny Gargano coming off of a major loss at TakeOver Brooklyn. You can go a couple of ways next week on NXT TV. Is the losing streak for Johnny Gargano going to continue, or is the winning streak for Velveteen Dream going to continue? Or is Johnny going to put these figments of his imagination of him becoming Tommaso Ciampa behind him and once again become Johnny Wrestling, get a huge win over the Velveteen Dream, who I think can actually take the loss at this point. It's going to be very interesting to see how this thing pans out. After a brief break, we get a shot of the Undisputed Era backstage preparing for their match tonight with Ricochet and Pete Dunne. That match was announced last week on the episode that I did not review. We also get our women's action for this week as Dakota Kai takes on Aliyah, once again looking more than ever like the dark-haired version of Carmella. It's actually getting kind of creepy how much they actually look alike. Aliyah comes out very aggressive this week, featuring some new ring gear and a bit of a new attitude. She actually dominates this match over Dakota Kai. I also wanted to take this opportunity to mention the Mae Young Classic. The bracketology special is airing right now on the WWE Network. I have not seen the brackets yet. I am completely spoiler-free, and next week we will be covering the Mae Young Classic as well as NXT here for One Wrestling Video on This Is NXT. That pretty much tells you how interesting Aliyah's offense was throughout this match. She dominates the match. Dakota Kai gets the big win in the end with a couple of face washes and then her flipping lung blower finish. I love the look of that move, but it just requires so much cooperation from the other girls. But hey, if Aliyah can take it, I guess that's a good sign. I'm not really sure what we're doing with Aliyah. We have repackaged Aliyah at least a half a dozen times at this point, and nothing seems to be working. Hopefully this new heel character will work for her, because I actually think she has a good look, even though she looks like Carmella, and I'm not a fan of Carmella. Maybe this attitude can actually work for her. We go backstage once again as William Regal is finishing up his interview with the Velveteen Dream. In walks the Forgotten Sons, Chad Lale, Wesley Blake, and Steve Cutler. They say they are not only here to clear their name, but they are also here for an opportunity, as it seems as though William Regal has granted that, and they will be in action next week on NXT TV. As we're getting ready to go to break, this was a great touch, especially knowing that this is a pre-tape show. As we're getting ready to go to break, we stop and we rush backstage instead, where EC3 has been laid out and we see Lars Sullivan walking away. It seems as though the monster of NXT didn't appreciate EC3 pointing the finger at him last week on NXT TV. We go to break, come back, and William Regal is back in his office with the one and only bat crazy Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross, evidently, she says she saw the whole thing. She knows who took out Aleister Black, and she knows this secret. Of course, she also answers a non-ringing phone and has a conversation with somebody on the other end as William Regal just looks on, trying to figure out, does Nikki Cross really know something? Or is Nikki Cross just crazy? They're then interrupted by Bianca Belair, who tells William Regal that he needs to stop with this nonsense and put his focus where it actually belongs, on her getting her title shot, because as we all know, Bianca Belair is undefeated, and she will be happy to tell you all about it. Nikki Cross, though, she seems to want to play with Bianca. Could we be setting up a makeshift #1 contenders match for Kairi Sane? Are we not going to get a rematch of Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler? I absolutely expected that was going to go down at Evolution. Maybe the match that we're setting up is going to be Kairi's challenger for War Games. I guess we'll have to find out. Raul Mendoza is next out for his match with EC3, but rather than EC3, Raul is met once again by Lars Sullivan. Lars says, unlike the Aleister Black mystery, there's no mystery who took out EC3. It was him. So now it seems as though we're going to get an EC3 versus Lars Sullivan feud? That's kind of cool. Unfortunately for Raul Mendoza, this does not work to his benefit. Lars comes into the ring and just absolutely lays him to waste. This was not an actual match. The bell never rang, and yet the referee officiated it like it was a squash match. So that was kind of odd. EC3 versus Lars Sullivan, I like it on the surface. But once again, it seems as though EC3 is the babyface, and I'm just not sure that I like EC3 as a babyface in any kind of dynamic, whether it be Impact Wrestling, NXT, or his eventual run on the main roster. We then go backstage to our NXT champion, Tommy Entertainment, Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa says peace and quiet. He says when he went away a year ago, he made a promise that he would return as the most dangerous SOB in NXT, and not only has he lived up to it, he has exceeded it in winning the NXT title. He says he is the greatest sports entertainer of all time, and the NXT Championship is his proof. No one will survive. What's coming next? So what's coming next, Tommaso? I want to know, because now that you're the champion, people should be coming after you, not you going after anyone else. I do agree with Tommaso Ciampa, however. He may be the greatest sports entertainer that's ever lived. However, he's not the greatest pro wrestler, but inside of a WWE context, Ciampa just absolutely killing it right now. Luke Menzies is out next, representing the Job Squad, as he will be taking on Keith Lee. Keith Lee, one match in NXT so far. Now he's going to murder poor Luke Menzies. So 2 matches in NXT, and Keith Lee is over like freaking Rover down inside of Full Sail. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see Keith Lee actually be getting a title shot by the time we get to War Games, or maybe even being in the War Games match itself. I look very much forward to that. Speaking of looking forward, next week we are going to get the return of the 1-2 punch. Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan are going to be back. We get a little vignette regarding them. They are going to be returning in 2 weeks. Next week, we will have NXT Women's Champion Kairi Sane on NXT TV, in addition to the Gargano versus Dream match. NXT TV next week, absolutely can't miss, and I, for one, am looking forward to it. So let's jump to your main event of the week, NXT North American Champion Ricochet. Still not happy Adam Cole lost this title. And the UK Champion Pete Dunne. They're going to be taking on the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Undisputed Era, who are out with former NXT North American Champion Adam Cole. Or at least that's what we assumed. We assumed it was going to be Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly taking on Pete Dunne and Ricochet, but no. Adam Cole wants him some more of Ricochet. It's going to be Adam Cole and Roderick Strong taking on the Continental Champions. This match goes about 15 minutes. Absolutely great tag team action back and forth. At the end of the match, Ricochet goes to take a big dive to take out the Undisputed Era and accidentally takes out his tag team partner, Pete Dunne. I'm very much looking forward to a Pete Dunne versus Ricochet feud. O'Reilly rolls Dunne back in. Cole hits the last shot, makes the pin for the 1-2-3. Undisputed Era victorious over your North American and NXT UK champions, respectively. After the match, they throw, who was it? Ricochet back into the ring, and the Undisputed Era does what the Undisputed Era does. It's a 3-on-1 beatdown. Out come the artists formerly known as War Machine. The War Raiders out. I'm not really sure if they were out to make a save or more so to make a statement that they are coming for Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, their NXT Tag Team Championships. It's just a matter of time until the raid comes for the Undisputed Era. So that's going to wrap things up for this week's episode of This is NXT. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and the little bell so that you're always notified of all of the new content here at One Wrestling Video. Hit me on Twitter at NotJargo. Let me know what you thought of this week's show. Then head over to hittingthemarks.podbean.com so you never miss any of the content from myself or my tag team partner Rick Vickery on the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you go over there right now, you can catch our exclusive interview with former head of WCW, the one and only Eazy-E, Eric Bischoff. Of course, this weekend, Rick and I will be in Chicago for StarCast and All In. If you are at the event, please stop down and say hello. We will talk to you next week here on This is NXT for One Wrestling Video. This is Jargo, signing off.